Hey Cubs, Turtle here. I just wanted to give you a quick, sort of as quick as I can, introduction to what you guys are going to be doing for our next activity. You're going to be making one of these. Let's see if I can. This is out of plaster. It just says the 29th Cubs, or sorry, 29th Immaculata Cubs, and then the Cub logo. And you're going to be making it out of plaster of Paris, and you're going to be using something that maybe some of you have used before, but maybe not. These are just rubber molds. So if you can see, that is the reverse image. Now, tomorrow night, or actually maybe in a couple weeks, you'll get one that looks like this, or looks like this. It's just because they're made out of different materials. Or you might get one that's a little bit different and it's in two parts. Okay, so that's plaster and it's just a backing plate. So it doesn't make a difference. At the end of the night, you'll all have exactly the same thing, but you might get a different mold. So what you're going to end up with is the plaster plaque. And then maybe on the next week, what we can do is, now don't judge me, these are two that we painted here. And so then you can paint them and then maybe hang them or sit them on your desk or hang them on your wall or something like that. Okay, so that's what we're getting ready to do. What I'm getting ready to show you is what you'll have to start with tomorrow night, which is some water, some plaster of Paris, which came out of this big bag, and you'll each get one of these, and then about this much water. It's about 100 milliliters. And then, of course, I'll have extra because it's a little bit of an art form to get the mix exactly right. And then you also get some sort of a container like this and a mixing stick. So what I'll do is, I'm just going to pick this mold. We'll use this one. What I'm going to do is, this is called mold release, and it's like an oil. It basically lets the plaster let go of this squishy mold. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now because I'm going to do that for you guys when we do this. So I'll just go ahead and do this. I'm going to do it over my sink so that I don't get it over everything. Okay, so it's just a quick spray, and so that's sort of slippery. That's the idea, is so that the plaster doesn't stick to the mold. Okay, now, I should back up just for you to know. The mold is made out of very simple materials, and they just come out of cans like this, and we just pour them together over top of what we call a master. And this is that's just plastic, and that's something that I 3D printed. So what I did was I put it into a box, and then I poured this stuff over it, and then I came out with that. So that's how that goes. Okay, so let's get down to business. Let's mix up some plaster. Okay, first thing we need is our plaster. Sometimes you hear it called plaster of Paris. Not sure exactly what the difference is. And you'll get just the right amount. So we'll just open up the bag there. And hopefully open it up. Oh, these are the worst. There we go. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take the whole amount of plaster that you get. This is just about the right amount. It's a little bit extra to fill our mold. Okay? So we're just going to pour that in, just like so. Okay? And then, this is probably not quite enough water, but it's better to put not enough water in than too much, because you can always add more. Okay, so we do that, and then you'll each get one of these, and then we just stir it up. Okay, and it's getting kind of, I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, it's getting kind of goopy. It's like mud now, and that's what we want. Now, at this point, we don't have a lot of time, okay? We have about maybe 5 minutes before it's going to be really, really difficult for it to do its job. So, we got to do a quick job. You might splash a little bit, or, you know, get some on the table or something like that. But what we're looking for is, if you've ever made pancakes, we're looking for about like if you were making pancakes. Okay, so we want to give, oops, I just spilled some on my hand. So it's looking like we're getting pretty close to being mixed. So I'm going to just lift some up so you can see it. You can see it's like if you've ever made pancakes, that's kind of what it looks like, isn't it? And you really want to scrape all around the container. And you might have a bowl, or you might have something like this. It might be, you know, even a cup maybe. But you want to make sure you scrape it around, give it a really good mix. Okay? I'm going to splash some more. And now, remember, we have our mold with our mold release, which is like an oil. And we just pour it out right into the mold. And what we want to do is just pour a little bit and then use our stick to kind of smush it down. Okay? Because what we want to try to do is get all of the air out of the mold. And in those little tiny spaces, like where the letters are, like where it says 29th Immaculata, what we want to do is smush the plaster down into the holes there. So that's what I'm doing right now. So as soon as I'm done with this, it doesn't take a long time. But remember, we only have about, let's call it 5 minutes to do this. So we want to not get distracted. And we're just squishing it down, getting it down into all of those nooks and crannies and tiny spaces. And the mold's not full right now. I'm not sure you can see that yet. So the mold's not quite full yet. What you want to do is put about half of your plaster in first, and then do what I'm doing with your spatula. And just kind of squish it down. Squish, squish, squish all the way around. And then once you're done with that, you can take the rest of your plaster. And you're going to have some extra for sure, because there's always going to be a little bit of waste. So you can see there's like that much extra, but that's okay. Now, I'm just going to kind of smooth it down like that. And it's okay if there's some on top, like if there's a little bit extra all around, that's okay, because it's going to break off really easily. So then you just take your spatula and you go like this. Just sort of pat it down. Sort of like you're making a mud pancake. And if you think you need a little bit more, put a little bit more. just to be safe. Because like I said, if there's extra, it's really easy to break off. Now, in about 15 or 20 minutes, maybe half an hour, we're going to be able to take this out of the mold. Because it really does set quite quickly. Okay? And you want to make the back kind of as smooth as you can. I'm not going to lift this up because now that it's full, if I lifted it up, it might spill out. So then the last thing that I do is I take my spatula and you just sort of drag it across to kind of remove most of the extra. And it's okay if it spills off because it's just going to go onto the table and we can always clean that up. So we just drag it off. And that way you have a flat, remember this is the back surface, that way you have a flat back surface here so that if you do want to hang it on your wall, that it's not all bumpy, okay? So that is casting, and I'm going to turn the camera off now, wait about 20-30 minutes, and then we're going to come back. I'll clean all this mess up, and then we'll see if we can take it out of the mold. Okay, we'll see you guys soon. Hey Cubs. Okay, so it's only been about right at half an hour, and we can see that the plaster of Paris is already a solid now. I can use my fingernail and just scrape off a little bit, but I think it's ready to demold because when we demold it, then the air can get to it and it can harden faster. So this is the demolding process. It's really easy because the rubber is quite flexible. Do have to be a little bit careful, and maybe you'll want to ask a leader with a little bit of help on this because some of the bits of the mold are quite small, especially up in this area. So you want to go kind of slow, but look at that. So that's overall the whole process. And what we'll do is we'll hopefully get everybody doing it at the same time. And then we can kind of all do the same thing at the same time. But we might have to shift a little bit just so we can kind of stay apart. And then everybody's going to have one of these. And then we can make another activity out of painting them, hopefully better than the ones that we painted here. But anyway, so that's the whole activity. And if you, if you want to be thinking about how you want to paint yours, like what colors, because you can use any colors you want or whatever. You don't have to paint it at all. But then also we're going to give you something to hang on the back, okay, just like a little kind of a hook thing, and then you can hang it anywhere you want. You could use white tack on your bedroom wall, or you could do whatever you want with it. Okay, good. Looking forward to seeing you guys.